exciting edition of
Midwest Reviews.
I'm one of your co-hosts, Kellen Kincaid, and to my right is your other co-host, Cameron Hoppus. And today, guys, we're going to be going over the 5 best ride attractions in the Magic Kingdom and Walt Disney World. And guys, I want to say right off the bat that this is just our personal opinion. It's not necessarily yours. So if you disagree with us, that's perfectly fine. Or perhaps you agree with us and maybe have these in a different order that we're going to go through. But we just want to go ahead and put that disclaimer out there. Okay. And without further ado, we'll go ahead and move on to our list of attractions. And when we say ride attractions, these are the ones that you actually sit your rear end down on and ride through the attraction.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're going to go ahead and get started with our honorable mention,
which is Splash Mountain. And you know, Splash Mountain is a good ride to cool off on. You spend most of your time indoors, and you also kind of get wet on the end. And there's something that Kellen has told me about the water that they use is that they use a specific chemical to keep the germs and the bacteria.
It's not chlorine. I don't have the information in front of me. But it's a different chemical to chlorine. That's why the water has a certain smell. But yeah. I'll let you go ahead.
But yeah, so the ride is themed after the Song of the South and Brer Rabbit and Brer Fox, Brer Bear, you know, all those things. Now, for me personally, and I know Kellen feels the same way too, the ride itself, the theme, is kind of outdated. I mean, how many kids these days know of Song of the South or any of those characters? So,
plus, especially in today's world, where that ride originates from.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not PC in any way.
Yeah, and so personally, I think Kellen had a great idea to update the ride's theme, and a lot of you are familiar with the Toy Story trilogy, and especially with Toy Story 2, with Woody's Roundup TV show that was mentioned in Toy Story 2.
Would you see a little snippet of?
Yeah. So, and Kellen's idea is to revamp the ride with that show that was in Toy Story 2.
With the fictional show
in the movie. And make that the centerpiece of the ride. And so as you're going through, you're seeing, you know, like you're in the show. And kind of goes along with what what Magic Kingdom already has with the Buzz Lightyear ride. And
I know it kind of sounds odd, but it's about the only thing that would fit within the theme of Adventureland.
Yeah, Frontierland.
Yeah, you're right. As kind of a you know, because I mean he's a cowboy, and like we said, they already did the Buzz Lightyear ride. Buzz Lightyear had a show, and he has a ride over in Tomorrowland, so it kind of makes sense to parallel that with Woody's Roundup. So anyway, all right. Okay. Well, that's probably enough on the honorable mention.
Yeah.
Next on the list is number 5 is Thunder Railroad.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Thunder Railroad, my only complaint about it is how short it is. You know, with these rides that we're mentioning here, these are ones you definitely want to hit. You know, like with Splash Mountain, that's a good cool-off ride because not only do you get wet. Thunder Railroad is there. I mean, true, it's short, but it's just enough of a thrill to qualify as the number 5 spot on our list.
Yeah.
The only other thing I have to say about Thunder Railroad, there's actually 2 things, is there's only one part of the ride that's really loud, and it's when you're going up and where the bats are in the cave. That's pretty loud.
Pretty ear-piercing, because I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah.
It's been, like I said, it had been, you know, 20-some-odd years since I had been to Disney World, basically. I say that, but I mean, you know, it wasn't even that long, I'm sorry. But, so, it was just unexpected. I was like, whoa. But there's that part, and then what was the other part?
It's just it being too short.
Yeah. Okay, so...
And if you sit in the very front of the ride, you know, they could have changed this since I've done this, but it seemed like one time I rode in the very front of it, and it seemed as though the thrills were less in front of it.
Yeah,
and that made me
I think it's because of the
train engine.
The train engine on the front is probably the reason why.
Because psychologically, when you're sitting farther back and you see the rest of the cars in front of you curve one direction, mm-hmm. Maybe I think psychologically your body starts getting a little bit more of that thrill. Like, oh man, this curve looks deep because you see the rest of this car and it's just making it as deep, you know. So, I mean, it, like I said, it qualifies just enough, but only to land in the number 5 spot.
Yeah.
So, anyway, moving on to number 4.
Yeah, moving on to number 4 would be Space Mountain. And Space Mountain is located in the Tomorrowland section. And what's cool about Space Mountain is that it's an indoor roller coaster. And as you called it, what would you call
Well,
it again?
and Pete Werner from the Diz said that it's basically just a boardwalk roller coaster ride in the dark.
Yeah.
And I mean, you want to strip it down to its bare essence. That's what it is.
Yeah.
But there's one reason why Space Mountain has such an allure to it, is because it has a legacy, especially with its twin being out in Disneyland.
Yes.
And here, it just the ambiance of it being in the dark, even though it is just a boardwalk coaster, that's what sells it.
And I don't know this for sure, but I don't think that the soundtrack has ever been updated, so you kind of get that nostalgia feel when you're going through the ride. And you know, when you're going through I think it's to the launch tube.
Mm-hmm.
The way they've done it was really neat because they have these lights, and the lights kind of go in sync, like down, and the lights will start going faster and faster and faster and faster along with the sound. So it makes you feel like you're going faster, and then until all of a sudden, you know, there you go. So,
and you don't really realize how, I mean, the building is massive when you see it from the outside, but if you've ever seen it with the lights on, you don't realize how high up you are on that ride at certain points.
No.
Which, I mean, makes sense, you know, because they drop and everything else.
And here's another fun thing about not just the ride, but as you're getting to the ride, they've got all these games. So if there is, and it's designed for if you have like a really long waiting period, and you want to be able to pass the time. They've made it to where you can play little, you know, games, and then, for that reason. So that's why Space Mountain's the number 4. So now we'll go ahead and we'll move on to our third ride.
Okay, now this one's a little bit odd because it's not a thrill ride, but because our last 3 were basically, or I'm sorry, our last 2. This one is one that I really personally enjoy the most, and it's the People Mover.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a thrill ride, it's just something to relax on. Now, I could be wrong, but I think at night they turn the lights on in the tunnel because it's dark outside. But in the day, I think the lights are actually off. But the main focus of the Tomorrowland deal is you get to look out over areas of the Magic Kingdom, primarily Tomorrowland, and just take in the scenery if you don't want to take a nap.
Well, and here's the other fun aspect of the ride too. Is when you're going through the tunnel, you get to see a couple of the rides as you're going through. So one of them is the Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Space Command thing, and the other one is Space Mountain, as we mentioned earlier. And what's neat is at specific times. I think if you go at the right time, if it's broke down, you actually will get to see the ride lit up with all the lights on it, which that's kind of neat, getting to see the track and all that.
Just to on this deal with the People Mover, is whenever it does go through Space Mountain, I've noticed this over time, but during certain parts of the ride, you can look down and it goes over, like I think it goes right over where you exit off of Space Mountain, because there's, that conveyor belt that walks past the exhibits of like Mars and Mercury or whatever those are. You can, when you're on the People, you can look down and see those exhibits right there, because it's going the opposite direction of the exit from Space Mountain.
Absolutely.
And so another part I love is, where the tracks come together and they go up and you see like the rocket and the people, it looks like they're out in space. I love it because here's the 2 tracks going up for Space Mountain, and then the People Mover goes right in between the 2 tracks. So, anyway, that was number 3, and we'll move on to our number 2,
which is Pirates of the Caribbean, one of the greatest songs to ever have that they ever did for a ride was the Pirates song. So it is such a fun ride, and it's not like the other rides. It's more, to me, it's more like the People Mover, but with a little more storyline going to it, as you got the Pirates theme. Now, I don't necessarily like the whole, tying it in with the movies with Jack Sparrow and all that stuff. I kind of like the way they did it originally. I thought it was just, it's just a cool ride.
But there's a couple interesting facts about this after breaking. Not as long as the one in California.
Not as long, but
But the funny thing is I did not know this, but the Disney Railroad runs right through the middle of the Pirates attraction, because it actually, the way they set it up, and they call it the Pirate Tunnel. The train goes through. And the reason I didn't know this until recently was the drop in the Pirates ride. In the Pirates ride in Disney World in Florida, The reason it drops is right where it drops. That's where the railroad comes in. So it drops right before it gets there, and that's why it takes you down to the ocean. I did not know that. That's pretty awesome.
Well, and I didn't know that either, so that was a nice fact to think about. So, and you know, the gift shop is pretty nice when you get to go to the gift shop because they got all the pirate stuff that you could buy. That's number 2, and so now moving on to our top best, because I've been waiting for this.
And the reason we say this before we give you our number 1 is it takes Space Mountain, like we mentioned, is a thrill ride. It gives you it's the ride portion, but there's no story to it. When you go through Pirates of the Caribbean, it's a story, but no ride. I mean, you can't really consider the drop we just talked about a thrill. I mean, it kind of can be, but it's not a thrill ride.
Yeah.
So this one actually gives you a story, envelops you in that story, and still gives you a ride there at the very end.
A thrill ride.
Yes. And that is because this is, and it's not just because it's shiny and new, but we're talking about the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. And I gotta say that, if I'm not mistaken, I think the way that they got the faces was they actually project the faces onto the animatronics.
I believe that's how they did that.
But when you're in that scene going through the mine, you're like, man, I just got sucked into a cartoon.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And I felt like getting out and joining them, digging for diamonds, because it looked so beautiful with all of the stuff they had. And what's cool is that the carts itself, like the train itself, is actually a mine cart. So that's what the way they've designed it to look like, an old like mine cart.
And it doesn't, by any motorized action, swing. It's actually on free momentum. So people, you'll see it on some, if you ever watch YouTube videos, you'll see some people, like a group of teenagers are in the car before it takes off, and they're making it rock back and forth because it's just there on a swivel point. And so that's what I love about it is it's because you go through that part of the story, and then you go through the, it's a decent thrill ride. That's why it landed above Thunder Railroad, because it's longer, and it combines the best elements of space and pirates by giving you a story and a thrill ride.
And I'll tell you one thing is it was the very first ride that we rode when we were there at Magic Kingdom, because that was our first pit stop, was Magic Kingdom, and so that was the first ride out of the gate. We were there one of the early ones because we were staying on park or whatever. We're staying at one of the resorts, and so they have their early hours for those who get to stay on park. So that was one of the first rides that was open, and so we got in.
Even with early hour, we were still outside the outside line queue.
Yeah.
Because that reminds me of is the games are there for whenever the line is backed up to where you're at.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you, this is what was really kind of frustrating to me, was the fact that there was a family in front of us and they were wanting to do everything. The line was moving. It's like, okay, I get the fact, maybe this is your first time here, maybe this is your first time on the ride, whatever, that's cool. Come back to it later, whenever the line's long. But they're just sitting there,
and they had like a big wide gap, and they're sitting there playing games.
And so the thing was, we weren't going to necessarily cut them in line because that's rude. But what we did is to get them in gear. Every time they did that, we walked past them, and they're like, "Oh, hey, we're losing our place in line." And so they'd run up in front of us again, stop at the next one. It's like, guys, I get it. If it is your first time at Disney World, that's awesome. If not, if this is your first time on the ride, that's cool. If it's your third or fourth, why are you still doing it?
Yeah.
So, I mean, the thing is there's reasonableness to this, but the thing is that's the reason it's there is to pacify you while you're waiting in line. You don't have to do every one of them. I skipped them if the line was moving. I'm like, I'm not going to do like that. Be like, hey, let me hold up the line.
Yeah, and see, here's the thing: is if you have a 15-minute wait, go through the line. You don't have much people there. Just go through the line. Don't even worry about the games. It's okay. You got like a 45-minute wait, or you got like an hour wait.
Then you
can you want to pass the time. So that's what we're saying. And so I watched video clips of the ride prior to going. And that's one of the things we do is we watch clips of different rides to get our minds in gear and get ourselves psyched up for these rides. And from what the videos that I saw, it didn't look like it was that impressive at first, but getting to ride it, it blew me away because I thought, wow, I wasn't expecting to be as fast as, because it didn't look that it was that fast. And so it just surprised the heck out of me, you know, and getting to see it in person is way better experience than seeing it on video. But, and I will say, one of the things that creeped me out was at the very end, you know, you actually get to ride past the house where Snow White is dancing with the doors and they're yodeling and all that. But the witch is at the end, and that freaks the crap out of me. Yeah, so she's at the end, and it just creeps me out. So
Well, the thing is you were sitting on that side and you weren't expecting it.
no,
And and what was funny was when we did that, they stopped right there. So literally, the witch was right there next to Cameron, and the animatronic does this creepy thing. She goes and turned and looked at him, and he's like, that creeps me out.
I wanted to punch it. I mean, I wanted to curse profanity at it, but I didn't. I didn't do that. So
It's not good in the Disney park.
No. So
or on this channel.
on this channel, yeah. But anyways, so that's our top 5 best rides of Disney World's Magic Kingdom. So
and so just to recap, Splash Mountain is the honorable mention. Number 5 is Thunder Railroad. 4 is Space Mountain. 3 is the People Mover. 2 is Pirates of the Caribbean, and 7 is number 1 is the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. So if you're going to go through Magic Kingdom, don't miss these rides. These are ones you definitely want to hit.
And now you may be asking yourselves too that isn't there a couple of rides that you miss? You know, I know that there's some attractions that you think we may have missed, but we're gonna do a video of the rides, unique attractions,
which
unique
falls
attractions,
such as Carousel of Progress.
Yeah, so we'll make mentions to those in another video on that channel, or on that video. I'm sorry. So, but anyways, so that's been our that's the end of part 2 of the best and worst of Magic Kingdom's ride attractions. So we'll see you next time on the next review.
All right.